I'm muted. There I am. It is Monday, January 25th, and I am Robert Chappell, your executive editor for Madison365, with your daily update for the day. It is Metcalfe's Monday, and that means the update today is brought to you by Metcalfe's Markets. Metcalfe's is a fourth-generation family-owned and operated market with stores in Madison at Hilldale and behind the West Town Mall, and in Wauwatosa at 68th and State. They work to support local farmers and products and have more than 3,500 local products on their shelves. And you can order for pickup or delivery at shopmetcalfes.com anytime. We appreciate Metcalfe's and their sponsorship and their support of everything that we do. Now, the coronavirus news today is kind of a mixed bag, to be honest with you. It's the first day that we've been below 1,000 new cases in several months. I think maybe even like early September was the last time we were below 1,000. Now, it's not the best. It's not the news that you think it is. I mean, it sounds like a good news, but we only had 4,200 tests reported today. So, it's nice to be under 1,000 for the day, but we're still at 22% of today's new reported tests are positive. So, it's not, I want it to be good news, but it's not quite there. You know what I mean? We do, however, have decent news on the other indicators. We're reporting 10 new fatalities today, which is not great. Two of those we're actually taking out two that had been reported in Dane County. There were two fatalities that the state reported for Dane County that Dane County never reported. So there was some discrepancy there that has now been corrected. So that means even though we're reporting 10 new deaths today, our total death count is going up by 8. Okay, and is now 5,699. That puts our 7-day average of reported fatalities at 34.3, which is actually a little bit higher than it was yesterday. Now, the other indicators are holding steady. Okay, the 7-day positive test rates are basically the same as they were yesterday, which is lower than they were Friday. Last time I was on here, it was Friday. Both of these numbers are lower than Friday, but they're the same as yesterday. The rate for all people tested is 20.6. 20.6% of all people tested in the past 7 days tested positive. So about 1 in 5. And anybody in the past 7 days who got at least one test over that 7-day period, 1 out of 5 tested positive at some point during the week. If you count all the tests, meaning several people get tested more than once a week, or somebody who got tested this week after having been tested last month or over the summer or whatever, 6.1% of those tests are positive. And that's kind of that key number to me. That's the number we want to get down like below 3%. Okay, so 6.1 is not bad. I mean, that number has been as high as 14 before. But it's the same as it was yesterday. I'd like to see it keep going down. Everybody keep doing what you're doing. Keep your masks on. Keep your social distancing. Keep staying out of the grocery stores if you don't have to. Don't go to the parties and the gatherings. That number will continue to go down. And get tested, right? More tests, ideally, will be testing more people who are negative. And we will catch those tests that are positive but asymptomatic, and we'll be able to isolate those folks. So that'll drive that number down as well. At this point, we are now at 64,364 people have completed their vaccinations. That's about 1.3% of the adult population, right? We've administered 339,858 doses. So there's a sizable number of people who've gotten that first dose and are waiting for the second. That is that's about all we have really for coronavirus news. It's like I said, it's good news pretty much all the way around. In that we'd like to see more testing, but it is a Monday, so we typically have lower testing on Mondays. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we will get a more complete picture. Hopefully, these 7-day average numbers will continue to drop and go down. I mentioned that I want the rate to be below 3, and in Dane County, it's actually 2.7 right now, which is great. That's the past 7 days. The 14-day rate in Dane County is slightly higher than 3, but still, that's a really good number. I like that a lot. I like the Dane County, where we are here in Madison. I think that supports the possibility of starting to talk about opening schools and things like that. Again, just talking about the possibility. I'm not saying pull the trigger, but if we can stay at that below 3 for a month, like that makes me feel a lot better about that kind of thing. Any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm happy to address any questions, but we have a bunch of other news to get to. Kind of a really busy news day for us today. Most of it good, nothing bad. So here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do an ad today. I'm going to play a clip for you, though, that you might have seen if you were paying attention to our social media over the weekend. Now, this is Packer related. So if that's kind of a content warning. Like if that's going to traumatize you to think about the Packers right now, you might want to click off. But I'll play the video and then I'll tell you the story behind it. If you've been paying attention at all to our social media, you probably saw this over the weekend because it was so cool and it actually went completely viral on our social media pages. But it's like a minute and a half, so just enjoy it. Stay with us. I'll be with you, and I'll tell you more about this video in just a minute. So that made me so happy this weekend. That is the woman on the right there is I'm going to attempt to pronounce her name properly because that's the respectful thing to do, and I apologize if this is not right. But Kanatalolux Zacharias Skenador, and on her left is her daughter, and that is a song in the traditional Oneida style of the new women's shuffle dance, which is a dance that's performed communally at the twice annual gatherings of the Iroquois people. And if you listen to it again, it's on our YouTube, and if you listen carefully, you can hear them say green and yellow, and you can hear go Pack go, and the rest of it is in Oneida. So here's the story. Some people out in New York, some Seneca people, did basically that kind of song for the Buffalo Bills. earlier in the week. Mrs. Kenador is a music teacher at the Oneida Elementary School, right? The Oneida Reservation right next to Green Bay. And of course, grew up as a Packer fan, as we all did, right? So one of her fellow teachers at the school just called her up and said, these Seneca people, who, by the way, are family of the Oneida, they're also Iroquois, of the Iroquois Confederation. So he said, so where's ours for the Packers? So she wrote one. And again, this is a traditional style, but Miss Kenador wrote the words and dropped in a little "Go Pack Go," and then the Oneida language words are, just basically, you can do it, go get them, you can beat them, that kind of thing. And she posted it on Friday night, and we saw it on Saturday, and she was good enough to talk to me on Saturday night, and I just thought it was too cool to pass up, so we shared it with our social media. Unfortunately, both the Bills and the Packers lost. So anyway, it was just really fun, and I love when cultures sort of intersect that way. Obviously this is traditional Oneida music, Oneida drumming, Oneida language, two generations, one passing on to the next generation, but also intertwined with just diehard rabid Packer fanhood. So that made my weekend, and I hope you enjoyed that. The story is on Madison365.org. It's not on the front page anymore, but if you click around a little bit, you'll be able to find the more about the whole story of it. Okay, a little bit other news items on the site today. You'll remember there's a lot of protesting happening in Madison in June, late May, early June, and into July and August. And that led to some property damage, and some businesses put up plywood up and down State Street and kind of adjacent streets. And then the city commissioned some artists to decorate those and to do some arts activism, right? So the art, it not only beautified downtown, but it also had some really impactful messages. Of course, those murals are temporary, and they're actually being taken down right now as businesses are kind of reopening, as that kind of has passed. So there's a desire not only to preserve the art, but to not forget the message of the art. So American Family Institute for Social and Corporate Impact, along with the city of Madison, have created this book. It's called Let's Talk About It. And it's basically photos, very high quality photos by Hedy Lamar Rudd and another photographer. Gosh, I'm so sorry, I forget. Amadou is his first name, and I'll get his last name for you here. But it's photos of the art, of the artists. It says artists statements. It's got a foreword by Judge Everett Mitchell, who basically Judge Everett Mitchell this was kind of his idea. Like, there was a conversation with American Family, with lots of other community stakeholders about, what should we do with this art? Like, how could we capture this moment? And it's kind of his idea to let's make a big, substantial book out of it. So he wrote the foreword, and it is a substantial volume. I got a copy of it. It is impressive. It's like it's got the heft of like a coffee table book, but you don't want to. That sounds dismissive of the actual content, but it is a massive volume, and it feels important. It's also got poems by Fabu, the former poet laureate. Amadou Chroma. Thank you. Amadou Chroma is the name of the other photographer. There's a couple other photographers, but Amadou and Hedy did the bulk of the photography. But it feels like an important book because it does capture not only the beauty and the stunning nature of the art itself, but the message, and it'll keep the conversation going, one hopes. Maybe the best thing about this is it's free. Like, this would be a $60 book if you got it at a bookstore. But you can get one. Each household can get one. So if you go on the website right now, just search for the story has actually fallen off the front page already. Like I said, there's a lot of news today. So I'm going to put a link to the story in the comments. And if you click that story, like in the first paragraph, there's another link where you can go request your copy. And American Family will mail it to you. So Naomi Wolf did this story. She did a nice job, as she always does. She spoke with Karin Wolf, the city's art commissioner, of Naira Jordan, who headed up the project from American Family, Everett Mitchell, some other folks. So, and she also talked to one of the artists too, and got his perspective of why it's important to preserve this. So it's a really nice story. It's just a good positive thing. Also today, I did a story on zoo school. When school is virtual, it's difficult, right? Especially if you're a working parent. If maybe you're low income, maybe if you have a caregiver, but your caregiver doesn't speak English as a first language, maybe you don't have very good Wi-Fi, so the zoo knew that they were going to be mostly closed, right? They have these big buildings that are not being used, and they have a bunch of education staff that don't have anything to do. So the zoo partnered with Bayview Foundation, which, if you don't know, owns low income, or not low income, but affordable housing townhouses for people who have lower income, about a mile from the zoo. So they partnered with Bayview Foundation and with Goodman Community Center. It basically converted 2 of the zoo buildings into like virtual school spaces. So they got 20 kids who come to the zoo every day instead of trying to do virtual school at home. And not only did they get like supervised virtual school with reliable Wi-Fi, which is, we don't want to take that for granted, but like Wednesdays, when they don't have scheduled Zoom meetings with teachers, it's like an asynchronous. You just do your homework that day, but they get to go feed the giraffes, and they go snowshoeing across Lake Wingra, and they get to do like additional, zoo related stuff. So it's really positive all around. It's the only program like it in the city that anybody knows about, but it's a real collaboration between a bunch of community organizations who came together to rally around some kids who needed a little extra arms wrapped around them to make sure they get through this year okay. And the young man here doing the puzzle, I spoke with him. His name is Brian. He also noted that the teachers are great, and the teachers being the zoo staff. And he said also that they provide a lot of support because it's stressful. This whole pandemic thing is stressful for kids, and the zoo staff are providing a lot of emotional support as well for the students. So that's a very nice story as well. That's there at Madison365.org right now. Black Oxygen today. The podcast, wherever you get your podcast, search for Black Oxygen. The guest today is from Wausau. It's a photographer and a videographer in Wausau, where there are very, very few Black people, as you probably know. His name is Alex B. Grant. Wherever you get your podcast, just search for Black Oxygen. Give that one a listen. You will enjoy that very much. Now, turning to the other football team that we like here in Wisconsin, Forward Madison. We have 2 pieces of good news from Forward Madison. First of all, we know that the USL League One season will get underway around May 8th. There's some flexibility for some clubs to start in late April. Madison doesn't really have home games that early just because of the weather. So, but it sounds like Madison will start in early May. It's going to be a 28-game season. And the playoff has been expanded to 6 teams. The league itself has expanded. We're assuming Toronto is going to be able to rejoin the league this year. They were out last year because of COVID, and a couple other clubs are joining as well. So that's exciting for soccer fans. The only question still is whether or not Madison will be able to play in Madison. Last year they had to play in Wauwatosa because Dane County was, necessarily restrictive on gatherings. But this year, with the numbers where they are, like I said, 2.7% right now. If we can keep it together, if we can hold that down for another month or two, I think it's possible that they might be able to, that the guidelines will change enough. They'd be able to have a soccer game. I don't know that they'd be able to really open up for fans, or for very many fans. Certainly not 5,000 the way they did in 2019, but it'll be interesting to see if we can do it, if we can pull it off and have professional soccer back in Madison. And one more soccer story, the Tank, Josiah Trimmingham. Center back, played with the club in 2020 and has signed again for 2021. He was the first player that they announced that had signed for another year. He's a big dude. That's why they call him the Tank. But he got called up to the Trinidad and Tobago national team, and he will be in the roster when TNT takes on the United States in a friendly this weekend. That game is Sunday at 6 p.m. in Orlando. It'll be on Fox Sports 1. This is the second international call-up for Josiah. He didn't make it into the game, but he was on the bench. He was in the 18-man roster for Trinidad and Tobago when they beat the United States 2-0 and eliminated them from the World Cup qualifications back in 2018. So with a year of professional football under his belt, he's getting another call-up. I would not be surprised at all to see him on the field in international competition on Sunday, which is really fun and exciting. So that is the news for today. I appreciate your attention, and I appreciate you sticking with me through it. And we will be back tomorrow with another It's Only 10 Minutes podcast in the morning, and then the update tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thanks again for being with us, and enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is 365 Media.